Melissa Bachman, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
Yep, you having a good time at SHOT Show so
It's
far?
been wonderful.
I know you are super busy. We've been seeing you on social with all the folks you work with. We're super happy to have you here with us today.
Thank you.
So just a couple questions for you. You hunt and travel around a lot. What sticks out about this past year? What memory comes to mind first? When I ask you what was your greatest hunt or most favorite hunt this past year?
I think for us, it was really just getting things started so early. We got really lucky because we had probably 4 hunts in a row, right, in August, September, and all of them were successful. So
Nice.
there's like no better way to kind of get the monkey off your back, get season started with just, having some wonderful trips. We went to Alberta. My husband shot an absolute monster. That was all spot and stock hunting.
Nice.
With our bows. I got one. Then we did antelope. We did more mule deer. And it's just fun to kind of get it started. Things are really clicking and working, getting great footage. And then I actually went to Illinois where we own our own land. And we've been managing it for 3 years. We have so many cameras out. And we had one buck that we were after because we have had 3 years of SPYPOINT pictures of him. And he always had like something goofy going on. But we weren't sure what it was. But this year he looked the most mature. So I went down to Illinois with my intent of trying to find this buck. And on our last day of the hunt, I decoyed him in to the field we had all these pictures of, and I shot him. And the crazy part is when we got up to him, his entire antler was detached from his skull plate. So you couldn't tell what was going on. You could tell it kind of sagged down a little bit. But it was one of the neatest things, and he's just an old, mature deer. Cool. To have that history, it just meant so much to us to have that, and then to see that and to have it all work out. The only thing is he kind of got the last laugh on us because you cannot drag a buck that does not have his antler attached to his skull.
Yeah, I didn't think
so
of that.
it was a very big challenge to get him out, but we got it done, and I was just super proud. And it's kind of fun to have your own place, to wait, to manage it, and then to be able to harvest that mature buck that you've seen so many pictures of, and then you get to see him in person and see what it's like. It was a really special hunt. That's
awesome. So what goes through your mind at the beginning of the season like that? We're like, okay, we've had all these back-to-back successful hunts, and it's only October. Now what? I mean, did you have plans already scheduled throughout the season, or?
Yeah, I really book a ton of hunts because you just never know what it's going to be like. You can run into rough patches, you can run into bad weather. So I'm always trying to, just really up your odds on it, because you may have 6 in a row, then you might have 6 in a row that are unsuccessful. And not that they're not fun and not a great hunt, but as far as I'm concerned with filming shows, if I'm not successful notching my tag, then I probably don't have a show. And I really am careful about not changing what I'm after based on, we really need to get some shows here. No, I'm after quality, not quantity, and I think that's important. And I think it shows through, and it gives us the option to be able to know what we have in all the places, Without having all those pictures, I would not know, what I'm coming into. So for me, it helps determine what's really feasible. What kind of quality do we have at different places? Because what we have in Illinois may not be the same as South Dakota. A buck that is mature in South Dakota might be a different size caliber than what we have in Illinois. So you really just need to know what your area has and have realistic expectations.
And what role do you think the SPYPOINT cameras play in allowing you to know those things ahead of time and to be able to make those decisions? Like you said, y'all knew what buck that you wanted at your place beforehand. How many years of history did you have pictures of him?
We had 3 years of history of that buck since we own the farm, But for me, it's really important because I have time in November especially. I don't have set places where I have to be. So we rely on our SPYPOINTs being out there and telling me, okay, I've got a mature buck showing up here, that's where I'm going next, And we've had really good luck over the years, especially in South Dakota. We set up all these water holes, a rub post, a licking branch. We've got this whole setup in front of our stand, and the moment we get a buck that comes in during daylight hours, I am hunting them the next day, and usually we're successful right off the bat. And it's because we're careful. We're constantly watching and using that intel to make the best decision. Then you kind of drop everything and you get there, and you can do it right the first time. You don't put any pressure on that area. You get out of there. And in my opinion, that's one of the best ways to really keep a spot good for year after year.
That's interesting. I think of, as you're saying that, it sounds like you're saying that your trail cameras are basically planning your November. It's
Absolutely.
like SPY Point owns November.
Yep.
That's,
It's true.
I like that tagline.
Yeah, it's true. And I go other places, and you have to have certain set times. But I always want November to be very flexible because that's when. I had one year I killed $5 over 150 in 7 days.
Wow.
And now my truck looked like a disaster. I looked like a disaster. I was wore out. But when things really heat up, you want to be able to get to all those places and to just be able to move around and to know what's happening. And of course, it's just me, right? So I don't have intel out there. That's why I have my spy points out there.
That's awesome. Speaking of trucks being a disaster, would you believe it that Roger Ragland just told us a story about him driving around Oklahoma with a doe in his paint truck, showing a whole bunch of strangers?
No.
It was the first one he shot. It was a hilarious story.
Well, when I got my first doe ever, my dad brought the doe to school at lunch so I could show all my friends
Awesome.
my very first year. So I guess I didn't drive her around and parade her, but I did make
But he
sure
brought it to school.
Yeah,
so tell us about that. When was that? How old were you? How did you take her?
I think it was when I was 12, somewhere in there, and I actually got to go, and I had literally been dreaming of going hunting, and I had maps drawn out and all this stuff, and in Minnesota you had to wait till you were 12. So it was a big deal for me to finally be able to go, and I got to take the 2 days off of school because our season was a 4-day deal. And then as a senior, my parents actually signed a work permit so I could bow hunt every morning.
Awesome.
And I didn't have to be at school till 10 a.m. So it's kind of cool. It was the deal is I had to keep good grades and I already had enough credits to graduate. But they told the school I was providing food for the family. That was my job.
Nice.
So
was your dad who introduced you to hunting and kind of your hunting mentor growing
yeah,
up?
my mom and dad actually.
Okay.
They both hunted.
Awesome.
They both took us all the time. My dad jokes it's just because they didn't want to pay for daycare or a babysitter. But they always brought us along, and we kind of made it a family thing. Whether we were hunting ducks on public land or hunting deer behind our house or on public land, whatever it was, we did it together. Then when we came home, we cleaned the animals together. We packaged them. I would write venison on them before I could even write. I'd just trace it on. But they involved us, and I think that's so important to just know where your food comes from and to do something together as a family. A lot of families don't necessarily have that anymore, and I think it's really important.
And that makes a lot of sense. It's obvious to you there's not a lot of female hunters, and you're by far one of the most predominant in our industry. That you had a female example as well. Even I honestly can't think of anyone else that all the girls that I know that grew up hunting, it was their dad. So it's really unique, I think, that you had both parents. Did you have siblings that went hunting with y'all as well?
Yep. So my brother as well. But to take it even a step further, my grandma hunted.
Awesome.
So I was actually going through videos. I didn't know my grandma ever hunted, and I was going through videos. I was actually digitizing them for my family, and I saw my grandma and grandpa on this old some millimeter reel. And they had 2 bucks strapped to their car in Wyoming, 2 mule deer. And I called my grandma. I said, "Grandma, you were a hunter?" She goes, "Yeah, that's the only trip they ever took me on because I shot a bigger buck than everybody else."
One and done.
And I'm like, "Way to go!" So I said, "Well, that is awesome." I said, "Grandma, why don't you come hunting again?" She's 79 years old, and she said, "I would love to." So I brought her to Colorado, and she got a beautiful mule deer. And she got it, and it was, a really nice buck. And she said, "I don't know if I want any of those heads in my house, though." And I said, "You don't have to do that." So I actually had my friend Jana Waller. She beaded the entire
I've seen her
thing.
work.
It's stunning. It was all Swarovski crystals. And I gave it to my grandma, and she actually took down some of, I think, her kids' wedding photos and put it on her wall.
That's how much she loved it.
But it's just beautiful, and it was just cool to see, and kind of the messaging that, for us, it's been 3 generations, but you're never too old to get started in it. She had such a wonderful time, and she really appreciated things that, maybe I wouldn't even think about, and seeing how they run their cattle operation, and, just little things, but it just kind of shows people it's never too late to get into the outdoors and to give it a try.
That's awesome. So what, I heard you say ducks and deer, what species did y'all hunt as a family growing up?
Basically just pheasants, ducks, and deer, and mentality in Minnesota is very different. There's no management practices in place. If you saw a deer, you shot a deer. That's how it works. But it's kind of been fun to help my parents and family kind of pivot to putting some water holes out. They've got spy points out, you know, learning that, because we never grew up with that. We just went out and we hunted, and kind of learning how to make it a year-round activity that everybody can enjoy.
Yeah. So you obviously grew up doing a lot of different hunting. At what point and why did you decide that you wanted to be in the outdoor industry?
Well, I just wanted to find a way to hunt for a living.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a clue how that was going to happen, but I knew I needed to pay a mortgage.
Yeah.
And I knew I had to get paid somehow. So I actually went into college, and I have a double major in television production and Spanish. So I first went out and applied. I applied at 74 locations to get a job, production. And I got 74 no's. Not one person was interested in hiring me.
Wow.
So I ended up going to the North American Hunting Club, which was my top pick, and I said, hey, can I come and work for you guys for free? And they're like, sure, okay. They didn't hire me for the position, but they said, well, what can you do? And I said, well, I could clean the floors, I could sweep, I could log tapes, I could film, edit. And they said, well, when can you start? And I said, tomorrow. And so I drove 150 miles a day, every day, to go work for free for 4 months, just to get my foot in the door. Yeah. Once I got my foot in the door, I became a producer and an editor, and just filmed everybody else's hunts, put their stuff together, and really got to learn, you know, more about hunting, because I grew up in Minnesota, hadn't traveled a lot of places, but also more about like what goes into making and creating a TV show. So I feel like it really helped create a really well-rounded person in me, because I didn't have the money to hire a production company. So when I broke away and started my own company, I did every aspect of it. Yeah. And the only reason I knew how to do that was from that experience. So I think it, you know, it was a really like long way to get into it, but it works because you're now effective. It's like a pyramid. You really build a strong base. You know everything. So if my cameraman can't come, I take over. I do a lot of the editing, you know, I don't have any middle people in there on anything, whether it's sales, whether it's production, you know, and I think there's some value to that, where people don't have to like rely on someone in the middle maybe messing up some information.
Yeah, well that's a really strong statement. I honestly didn't know that about you, you know, to be able to, you know, basically at this point you don't feel like you owe anyone, you did it yourself, and that's pretty incredible.
Plus, you appreciate it more, right?
Absolutely,
you're going to really go out of your way to never let that go away, because it was your dream. You made it happen. Nobody did it for you. So I think there's a lot of value to that, too.
Yeah, for sure. So you talked about, you know, early on, and also you mentioned Minnesota and the management practices there. I'm in South Louisiana, so I relate. It's, you know, if it's brown, it's down is alive and well in Louisiana. But how has hunting in general, and also the way that you hunt, changed over the years?
You know, I think it has changed because I definitely go in and, you know, I don't feel like I have to fill a tag to be happy. I think that's something that's really important, and I think people need to know that if you are going to really try to get the most mature buck on your property, you're not going to get them every time. Yeah. These bucks are smart, they are old, but that's part of the fun of the challenge of it, and I like that. But I also try to remind people, you can't get so caught up in that you forget about having fun. Because this should be fun. I bring my little dog Pork Chop with, her and I hang out, I bring our kids along. I just think it's really important to be able to do all those things to have fun. And you know, even if you're not shooting the biggest buck, you're going out, you're checking cameras, you're getting the pictures. My son will go into our phones and look through the SPYPOINT pictures. He likes to just click the favorite button, because then it's all the bucks. Yeah. He's like, Mom, you wouldn't believe all the bucks in here. But you know, having that with a family, I think that brings some of the fun back to it, regardless of what management practices you do.
Yeah. So you obviously take a lot of trips, a lot of different places. Some of the gear that you have to take, I want you to think about the most essential items for you. Forget about the weapons, forget about the license. You've got a pack, you've got an hour to get ready. Let's just say you got to grab 5 things. What's most important for you to have in your pack?
Well, I really believe in like staying comfortable and staying warm. So I like to, it's kind of a combo thing. I put, they're called Thermacare heat wraps. You can buy them at like Walgreens, Amazon, wherever you get stuff. And it's a wrap that goes on your back. And what it does is it keeps your kidneys warm. And even if you're not hunting in 30 below weather, let's say you're going out elk hunting and the temps drop 20 degrees while you're out there, you don't have to worry about layering on a bunch of clothes. You just wrap that around your kidneys and it will keep you warm because your kidney blood flow, you know, it's putting the warm blood through your whole body, makes such a difference. So that's one thing. Next thing is I put a camera in there because when I'm out hunting, sometimes you'll see things and you're like, oh, we should have had a camera here. And I don't want to go back and make more trips in and out. So I always have that. And then the next thing I always have is a pack of batteries and spare SD cards. That way, if something needs to be changed in the field, again, it's about not making numerous trips in and out of the field. Then I'm bringing snacks. Every single time. My backpack has snacks stuffed in every crevice you could imagine. Just when you think I'm all out, I can open more zippers and find more. So
that's something that everybody said. What snack specifically is your favorite?
Well, I bring a Diet Mountain Dew, a Hoist water, and Pop-Tarts.
Pop-Tarts, nice. What flavor Pop-Tarts?
Cherry. Always.
Ooh, okay. I like the blueberry ones.
Ooh, that's
blueberry or s'mores. Those are good. We don't agree on Pop-Tart flavors.
That's okay, then we wouldn't be stealing each other's.
Yeah, the Little Debbie's have been a good answer too, like the Christmas trees.
See, I don't go for any of those. I did have a Twinkie once over in Thailand that wasn't labeled a Twinkie, and I was like, this is the most amazing thing ever. And my brother's like, that's like a Twinkie. I said, I've never tried a Twinkie. I think they did a really bad job marketing because I think it's one of those things is, what girls eat Twinkies? Probably not that many. Anyway.
Twinkies are so bad.
Yeah, and then I guess the last thing would be, usually I bring some sort of a charging block. That way I can have it for either our cameras or GoPros or phone, whatever might die. It's just nice to be able to keep things powered up because a lot of places we're hunting are cold and things die fast in the cold.
Do you do much hunting down south?
No, not too much. No, most of it's in the Midwest. The colder, the better.
And out west, for sure. Yeah, fewer mosquitoes up there. So, what would you tell new hunters or hunters that are looking to get into it? That maybe best piece of advice: how to start, why to start. What's your best advice?
More on hunting or on trying to film?
Either.
Either. I think the most important thing, for people trying to get into it, is kind of find your niche, right? And to be authentic with it. Because too often I see people who maybe don't want to be out there in the middle of a snowstorm, trying to get the picture of them in the snowstorm, and they're miserable and they hate it. It's like, you know what? If that's not your thing, it's no big deal, right? Just do what you enjoy and have fun out there. I just think that's the number one thing that kind of gets lost, and that should be the main thing. If you're having fun, you're going to stay out there longer. The longer you hunt, the higher your odds. So I just think all of that goes hand in hand, and you have to realize that you have to roll with the punches. Things do not always work out right. It doesn't matter if it's the weather, there's so many things that can go wrong, and they do. And sometimes you just have to take a breath, laugh it off, and move on, because it happens to everyone. And I try to show some of those things in my show because I want people to know this is not a perfect world all the time. And if I don't want to make some new hunter think that if something goes wrong on their hunt, oh, they're the worst hunter I ever start over. That's not true. It happens to everybody. I hunt 300 days a year and it happens to me. So
that's a lot of hunting.
Yeah, it is.
So let's shift gears to the future. You've had the opportunity to be in the booth already here at SHOT Show. What are you most excited about that SPYPOINT's bringing to the table for you to use personally in 2024?
For me, it's the Flex Plus. I am super excited about this. I've had the Flexes out, and I'm just blown away by the photos, the videos. They're just so amazingly crystal clear. I mean, I put them in my shows all the time, and it's next to 4K footage, and it's just stellar. It's unbelievable. But having the 2 battery trays, I just love that idea, and also having that on demand, because I've had it in the field where we really need to see this HD photo right now. I want to see this and see what's there or check it out. Or like we talked about yesterday, even checking, late season. A lot of times you're not hunting all day. Just getting that quick survey of the field before you go in so you're not bumping animals out. I think there's just a lot of benefits to that. Plus you still get the dual SIM cards. It's just a great all-around package that I think people are going to love.
Yeah, I think so too. So speaking of things that we love, what is on your agenda personally this year as far as hunts go? Do you have any big hunts planned, anything that you've been looking forward to for a while? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I'm doing another moose hunt. This will probably be one of our last moose hunts. We go up to Yukon Big Game Outfitters, and Dave, who we hunt with, is retiring this year, so we're going to be his last group in. And if I had to pick one hunt to just do over and over with my husband and I to go do, that's it. I mean, you see so many moose. You've got the northern lights at night. It's just stunning.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful. And we have so much fun. And so we've booked this, I think we booked it like 3 years ago. So
Wow.
getting pretty excited that it's coming up, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
That sounds awesome.
Yes.
Well, thanks so much for spending the time with us today, and thanks for being a part of Team SPYPOINT.
Well, thanks for having me. I sure appreciate it, and my son does too.
Yeah, for sure.